Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hold on. I'm so out of practice. It's been a couple of days. I forgot to get the audio recording started, but here we go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? We are back in Chicago. It is 1 p.m. It means it's time for another live stream. Sorry about the false start there, but I got it all set now. It's June 28th, 2021. And I just got back last night from California, where I was out there checking out, filming, photographing Western states. It is a phenomenal race. It was so hot, but just quite a whirlwind and quite an adventure. I missed you guys. I was thinking about you guys a lot. We haven't had a live stream since last Thursday, so it's good to be back here. And for all of you guys that are listening in the podcast, audio only version, hopefully you guys are having a good run out there today. Hopefully you guys didn't miss me too much. I think that there was plenty of other stuff that you could have been listening to this weekend as well. So I think, I'll do a better job of suggesting other things next time. We're going to have a little bit of a break. But there was lots of Olympic track trials coverage. I'm sure there were a lot of other podcasts covering Western states as well, if you're into that too. So hopefully you found some other stuff to keep you company on your runs. But we're back now. Glad to have you here. Hope you're having a good run. And everyone watched on YouTube after the fact, hopefully you're having a great day too, and are relaxing now at a point in the day where you can just chill. Let's see who we got here in the chat. Chris Yao was the first one here. Says, hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Really wishing there were some photos of the Western States Endurance Run somewhere. Yeah, I've been kind of spamming everybody with it. I was going to do a bunch of more organized posts, but I thought, I'll just do one at a time and just kind of like whenever I can get them out rather than trying to have them trickle out every once in a while or have them come out late. So I'll just have them come out whenever I can get them out. But there's a lot. Jamie had a lot. Jamie had some really good photos. And then another guy that we met, Kevin Lara, fantastic photos. He had some really great shots too. And then there's just so many great photos from this event. So a lot of great other photographers there. It was, I just tried to stay out of everyone's way. Anytime I saw another photographer, I was like, am I in your shot? I'm not going to be in the way. I'll move out of the way if you can. So that was my goal for the day. Hopefully I didn't piss anyone off. That was my main goal. Thomas Villa says, happy Monday, everyone. Good to see you, Thomas. Martha's here. Says, hi, Chris, and whoever else is looking the wait. Hi, Martha. How are you? Recycle on Wednesday. David Sachs, Jonathan Moore. Good to see everybody. Stevie76 says, yo, what's going on? You know what's funny? Jamie and I had a long conversation about if I have a catchphrase, and I was like, I think it's yo, what's going on is my catchphrase. And he's like, that's not a catchphrase. And I'm like, it kind of is. But yeah. But for those of you who haven't been following the content over the weekend on YouTube, Instagram, and on Twitter, Jamie was out there too. And we were both out there. So we were kind of like a little Laurel and Hardy type of action, I guess. Like comedic relief with comedic relief. Neither of us. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I'm not sure. But we were having fun out there and creating quality content for all of you guys. I'm glad that you guys have picked up on that. That became a catchphrase. I guess that's a catchphrase for the weekend. Terry Furlong is here. Ozenfant Backstros. Brian Pauls. Dylan says, welcome back. It's good to be back. I mean, it was great. It was great to be out there, but, it was very, very different than Chicago and what I'm used to. The elevation was, something that always just kind of had me a little bit tired. You wouldn't even really notice it, and you'd be like, oh, I'm breathing heavy just sitting around here. Oh yeah, we're at the top of a mountain. I think those are mountains, right? We can call those mountains. A lot of times I call things mountains, and then everyone else is like, those aren't mountains, those are hills. So I don't know, but it's good to be back at sea level. It's so much cooler here. Brendan, what's going on? He said, welcome home, love the videos. Thank you so much. Stuart Coates coming in from South Wales, UK. Awesome. And Rico De Vega says, welcome back. And nice hat. Thanks. It was given to me as a gift the last time I was in Austin. Actually, speaking of Jamie. All right, let me scroll down. Oh, Martha says, Mike, I guess you didn't have a chance to find my coach managing the finish line. Next time he invites me to volunteer there, I'll say yes. Yeah, I didn't have a chance there. I also this is my first time, so I didn't want to be bug. I was so worried about bugging people or getting in people's way, whether I was at the aid station or not. So I was like, I need a telephoto lens. That's why I get the shots I want without having to be in anyone's way or accidentally tripping someone. So yeah, I was like, everyone's got jobs to do here. There's so many people that are working, and I just was like, I don't want to be in anyone's way. And so I didn't have a chance. I did not have a chance to do that, so I apologize. But yeah, I mean, that could be another place that we all meet up, because there is downtime sometimes, depending on what at what point in the race there is. There certainly is downtime to be had, so it could be a real fun place to meet up. David probably says, good afternoon, co-fam. Enjoyed the Western States coverage. Thank you. Sarah Mem says, loved Western States coverage. Oops, lost my headphones. And she tried Noon Recovery for the first time today based off past Monday Mukmuk. Won my first race I ever ran in person on Saturday. What? She won the race? Nice. Good job, Sarah. And she says, thanks, Mark C, for inspiration. And the Co-Club is great. Well, that's fantastic. That's incredible. Congratulations on winning the race. And Thomasville says, the collaboration with Jamie was great. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, I got to tell you. And I was worried at some points that people were going to be like, who are these guys joking around over in the corner? But I think we were well received by the rest of the community there. I mean, we both kind of stick out a little bit. So everyone was very welcoming, but like at the same time, it's like, you know, we didn't want to offend. I don't know, I don't know about Jamie, but I didn't want to offend anyone. So I was like, we're trying to do our thing and have fun and do it how we do it. And hopefully that came across. That we had fun and we still did it kind of our way. So that's what it's so far. I mean, the video is doing really well. The feedback has been pretty good. So I'm excited. And I did, you know, I don't always do this, but every once in a while when I post a video and I'm wondering if it's doing well, I'll just type in like a keyword. A lot of times if I'm looking for a video that I made like about a shoe, I might type in like, you know, New Balance 1080 version 10 Kofuzi into YouTube search. But sometimes I'll just type in the thing. So I typed in Western States into YouTube and my video came up first. So I was like, I don't know if it's still there, but it did for a while when I checked this morning. So I always feel like that is a great sign. When you have a big event and you're the first thing that pops up. So I don't know what happens if you type in like Western States 100 or Western States Endurance Race, but if you just type in Western States, I'm there. Or at least I was this morning. So I'm feeling like it was good and we had a good time. Steve says, hi, I signed up for your OnlyFans. Link was in the description. Yeah. So the link in description thing, Jamie, the whole week was giving me, or the whole weekend was giving me a hard time about being a professional YouTuber. I don't know if that came across in any of the stuff. I don't remember like what stuff we put into videos, what stuff was live, and what stuff he was just giving me a hard time about when it was the two of us. But he kept giving me a hard time about that. So anytime I turned the camera on, he would try to find a way to say the phrase link in description about stuff. And so, yeah, that became another running joke about it. So that's if we start giggling or anytime I say link in description and start laughing, it's because sometimes I really do want to say link in description. But mostly I mean it as a joke. Yeah. So that's where that came from. It was fun. Richard Smart coming in again from Harker Heights, Texas. Hope your kids are having fun in the pool today. And Boston says, hi, Kofuzi. Awesome. Boston Andrea says, do you track your runs in kilometers or miles? And do you know how to convert kilometer pace to mile pace? I track in miles and I do not know how to convert. I mean, you know, I know that like about 60 miles is 100 kilometers, like that I know. But in terms of paces, miles per minute, I have a website that I go to all the time that has like all of them listed out. I don't even know the name of it, but I found one like a couple of years ago, and that's just one I use, and I use it so frequently. It's like it just pops up. I don't think I have it favorited, but in my browser it just like pops up as like a frequently visited site. So I just use that, and so that's how I do the conversions in my head. You know, I can't do that kind of math in my head. Ken Sprague says, the weather in Chicago is bogus this weekend. I heard. My wife said that there were tornado warnings even for the city, which again is unusual and happened twice in like 1 week. And she moved the kids into the bathroom. We live in a high rise. And so things that are, it's a room without windows, and all our the building's a little bit older. So all our walls are diamond lath and plaster, like a thick, almost like a concrete. So like really thick. I mean, if it became a real problem, we can go into the stairwells. The stairwells are kind of like stormproof. So, let's see. Shannon says, Co, amazing weekend of races. Co, so impressed with your Western States video. You turned that around so fast. Yeah, I mean, part of it was like a tactical decision. We left the race early, basically right after Jim Wamsley crossed the finish line. Jamie and I left shortly after that, so that we would have time to work on stuff. And so we had kind of like throughout the day, because Jim was so fast that like you have to decide, like you're either going to catch him and maybe second and third place, or you're going to ignore him to film other people if you're one person. So you got to make that kind of choice. And so we kind of chose to follow him throughout the day. And then we're like, well, he crosses the finish line, and then we can either wait a couple hours, but we're like, I want to get that video out. So it was I didn't want to like try and bite off too much with my first time out there. So like, it was a decision for sure. And I was also like, we didn't have footage of say like the women's race really outside of Robinson, like the first big aid station. And so it was like, I haven't been following them all day. So like to have the finish line footage would be great and interesting from like, here's a clip of this. But like in terms of telling the story, it would be, I was like, we have to decide. So maybe it was the wrong decision, but hopefully there'll be another year for me to go out there. But yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it was an amazing weekend of racing. I was kind of bummed that like the track trials and this was the same weekend. I was like, why couldn't they be lined separate weekends? That would have been great. But I suppose this kind of conflict can only happen once every 4 years. All right. My tagline, my catchphrase should be, I brought this product with my own money. I could go with that. That's pretty funny. Drew Moore says, I just found your channel about a week or so back and really dig your stuff from Western States and also the running belt stuff. Looking for one myself. Awesome. Thanks. Very cool, Drew. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I love the cat. Is your cat dressed up in a suit or a tie in this picture here? It's amazing. Love it. All right. The chat is dropping down for me on the side, so I'm sorry if I missed. If you have a question or something, I apologize, but I'm going to try to catch up and keep up with you guys. All right. Adam JK says, hey, first real race, quote unquote, went ahead on Friday. Thrilled with 39.59 for the 10K, but also because my partner finally got to see me do that running thing because I became obsessed with it during lockdown. Well, that is fantastic. Breaking the 40-minute barrier. Nice work. And partner got to see you do the running thing. That's nice. That makes it special too. Awesome. Well, congratulations. It's great. Yeah. Oh yeah. James Eller says there was a Tour de France considering suing the fan for causing the crash. Yeah. See, I'm glad you brought that up, James, because I was really worried that I was going to be like that. Like, I'm glad that happened like after I got back from the race. I'm not glad that happened, but like, the fan with the sign, I didn't see it. I saw like the headline, a fan with a sign causes a massive crash in the Tour de France. So I was worried that like, I was going to trip somebody, startle someone, accidentally bump into someone, or worse, accidentally DQ someone. So that I was petrified of that the entire weekend. I was like, that's why another reason why I didn't want to get too close. I was going to be like, what is everyone else doing? There's other photographers here. How are they filming the race? Are they getting in people's face or not? Like, what are they doing? So I was really concerned about that. I was like, I'm not a fan. I had media credentials, so I could be in different places than like other spectators and crew, and especially crew members. There's very different roles for crew members could be. So like I was pretty nervous about it though, because I was like, I don't know, maybe there's different rules. You see other videos and see how other people have captured things, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? And so it's like there were rules, there were like guidelines and stuff that they had sent to media and stuff, but I'm like, I have more questions. Maybe I should have been more specific, and that might have made me feel better. But I was just like, the last thing that I would want is for someone to get like an athlete to get mad at me, So I was probably a little bit more timid than I normally would want to be at filming an event, but I just really, that's like my worst nightmare. Shannon says, will you give my daughter Finley a cowbell for her first race? Yeah, great job. Awesome. Great job on the 400. That is quite a distance. It's one of the hardest distances to race, in my opinion. So fantastic job. Congratulations. Dave said, I took Co and this community's advice for Hyperion Temple. Love them. Awesome. It's the same shoe that I got from my nephew, and he loves his as well. So I'm glad you enjoyed that one. All right. Richard Smart says, oh, about a pool in Texas. He says it's been raining off and all day, so pool maybe, but he got the morning running without the rain. So there you go. That's good. That's good. Yeah, the weather here in Chicago is going to be like, my kids are bummed because there's like kind of like lightning storms, like kind of in the forecast every day. And they really want to go to the lake. They want to go jump in the water a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see if we can kind of like squeeze something in. Right now, it looks pretty nice out there. Dave says, hey, Co, do you have or use an M1 MacBook to edit? No, I have a 2018 MacBook. It's getting old and it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. It still does fine, but like the battery, which I don't think is replaceable. The battery meter says like, hey, you need to do some battery maintenance. And I'm like, how do I do maintenance on a battery that can't be replaced or whatever? And it gets real hot, like right away. And so like, I just think that it's struggling. So it might be time. It's been 3 years that I've had this MacBook. So maybe I'll get an M1. Jamie was giving me a hard time about my MacBook. One, because it's gold, and two, because it's a little MacBook. And I was like, well, we can't all have MacBook Pros, because he had a MacBook Pro with him. And I was like, sorry. Yeah. But I was like, that's fine. It works for me. But yeah, I have just a regular MacBook, and it does pretty good. James Edwards says, kudos, great coverage. Watch out, Billy Yang. I'm not in that category. I don't know that I have the desire for that. It's a different approach to do like a Billy Yang style video, because it's not like a day of thing. His videos always have footage in the build up, which I think is crucially important. I mean, sometimes it's a day of thing for him, but usually there's more to it than just the day of. There's like pre-run or pre-race interviews, and then post-race interviews, and lots of other types of stuff to help tell more of the story fully. And so it's a different kind of narration. But what I do like the idea of is, I think that there's like, I kind of was trying to do two things, and I think that also like made the video maybe not as good as it could have been, is like, it's what you either have to try to cover the whole race, and you need multiple people to do that, or you need to cover a story and then stick with that, like one person, So I tried to do like a little bit of both. And that was hard. But I did the best I could. But thank you for enjoying the coverage, and thank you for watching. Like my perspective of it was, there's going to be teams that are covering the entire race, all the contestants, all the stories. And there'll be other smaller, different teams that are covering like a single person. And so my idea was to be more like, what is it like to try and like follow it from the ground level, And so there were times I feel like I did really good. There were things I could have done better, but lots of ideas for next time. All right. Stevie76 says, I've seen super aggressive photographers at sporting events. I guess when they're trying to sell their prints, they don't want anyone ruining their shot. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, some of the photographers there it seemed like they were freelance, and they need to sell the shots. And other people, I think, were hired to be there by brands. And so like, either way, that's people's jobs. I'm just there to make a YouTube video, so I can get out of the way for them a little bit, So that was like my main thing going in there. It's just like, I just don't want to be, I don't want to be like, who brought this guy? That was like my big fear. But for this most part, it seemed like Jamie knew a lot of the people that were there, because he's seen them at other events. So he's been traveling to different track meets and other running events, and so he's seen a lot of people there that were the photographers. And so I was kind of like taking cues from what Jamie was doing and what other people were doing in terms of like how much in people's face can you get. But I also keeping in mind that like I Run Far I don't think they were like the exclusive partner, but they had a lot of coverage, and I don't know who was working for the race, so it seemed like certain people were like, not that they had more access, but they had like no qualms about being in everyone's shot, or like just getting up in everyone's faces. So I felt like those are people that, or maybe have like, I'm sure there's tiers. I'm on the bottom tier. There's other people. So like, I was trying to be mindful of that. Dave says, has covering Western states sparked the desire for you to run it? You know, it's yes. And an answer to that yes is because like I'd much rather film an event with a bib on than with a media credentials badge on. You know, is kind of my take on it. Um, but that course is brutal. And you know, all weekend people, and even leading up, all the research that I was trying to do to understand this race a little bit more before I got there, everyone's like, it's a really runnable course, and I'm like, I get there and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I don't understand what you guys mean by runnable. I guess they mean it's like it's not like, I mean, some parts of it are like on like gravel roads and stuff, like fire roads and access roads. So I'm like, I guess that's what they mean. It's not like you're not scrambling, I guess, but I don't know. There's a lot of climbing and a lot of descent in this race. So, and if it's going to be like, I mean, my fear would be if it's a hot year, you know, like I don't know how people survived. I mean, I guess a lot of people that no one died as far as I know, but like a lot of people did DNF. It was a really low finish percentage this year. So the heat really got to people. And that would be my fear. Cause like I talked to a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm pacing this weekend. I've been trying to get in for the last 6 years. You know, it wasn't my year this year, but my buddy's doing it. So I'm pacing, you know, so that's kind of like a specific story that I heard. So it's not like you can be like, oh, it's going to be a hot year, I'll defer to next year, or maybe I'll do it again some other time. You know, if it's your year, it's your year, and you got to go and you take whatever the course is going to give you, you know. Willing says, if you were to pick one distance on the track to help develop good running form and strength, what would it be? Probably 800. As far as racing, but in terms of like if you're doing repetitions, I'd probably pick either a 200 or a 400. For me, probably a 400 because I like longer distances. But the 200 is a good one because, you know, you're usually doing longer recoveries. You're running a little bit harder. So that's going to work on those muscle memory for technique. Phil Orman says, did you catch the track Olympic trials at all? I can't imagine running some of those races in 100+ degree heat. I didn't because I was, you know, in the lead up, I didn't watch them. I was watching so much of the recaps on Twitter, and a lot of the race finishes were on Twitter. I did watch some on replay because I'd like DVR'd some. And then but for like this last weekend, I couldn't even get reception to refresh tweets because iRunFar was like live tweeting the entire event in terms of like where people were and stuff. So, you know, we didn't really know where runners were. Some people knew based on if they were able to get signal to refresh Twitter. But a lot of times, if you stayed at the aid station, there was like the aid station kind of like command center of each one, and they had radios, and they would say, you know, where people are every once in a while. So Sarah Mim said, did you notice what the runners mainly fueled on via the aid stations? I mean, I didn't because I was always really far back. And my thinking was always use the long lens, telephoto lens, to get them coming into the aid station. And then as it exited, use the GoPro to get closer footage of them. Because again, I wanted to stay out of everyone's way. But from what I was able to see, it looks like the things that you would expect. There was sodas, there were gels, usually pulled out of coolers so that they would stay extra cold. A lot of the thing that I thought was most notable was just how much, because it was a hot year, how much ice and like water that they went through. Like if people were like spraying it, dousing over themselves, and then like making their like neck, the ice bandanas and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's like the main thing that caught me was how much like they're like the whole thing was just about cooling down and then refilling. And so like they would stand there, someone would fill up their like ice bandana, and while they were doing that, they would chug a bottle of sport drink. And then someone would like pour water over their heads, you know. So it was just like, it was real pit stops. It was a lot of like very quick activity all the time. I didn't spend a lot of time in any of the aid stations where people were like sitting down and changing shoes and stuff like that. So, because by then, like, you know, we were trying to chase Jim around the course. So it was, we didn't spend a ton of time in those aid stations. And I also feel like that's where everyone gets a lot of footage. So we wanted to try to be where people weren't as well. And then Martha says, I guess by runability, they mean you're not climbing boulder fields. Yeah. You're not like, you're not on all fours. But there's certain parts where, I mean, even in just the beginning like 5K of the race, a lot of people are power hiking most of that. So I mean, it's on a nice road. You could take a car up there, but I mean a dirt road. But you're not. Most people aren't running. But yeah, I think that's what they mean. I think that's what runnable means, is like the terrain is not like it's not like roots and rocks and and uneven terrain and gravel that like slips out from underneath you. And Martha says it looks like all trail based on the little we saw. Is that true? But you can do that. Yeah, the thing is, I don't know what I didn't see. So like I know what like the first 5K looks like, and that's all wide enough and stable enough that you could drive a car through it, even though it's very steep. But between there and the first aid station that we went to, that's 30 miles different. And I think there was lots of climbing and descent. And so like, I'm not sure exactly what it was. But any of the aid stations are all at points where you could like get cars and stuff to them. And so like getting out of them, there was usually dirt roads to get in and out of them too. So it's like, I have a very, out of the 100 miles, I saw, like 2 miles of the course, so like, well, maybe less than 10 miles of the course. So like, I don't know what's in between there, to be sure, but hopefully, one day I'll be able to either pay someone or run it myself. And I can show you guys for sure. And Sarah wants to know if I got to visit the town of Auburn after the race and do some sightseeing. No, I mean, basically we left after Jim crossed the line, and then we basically stopped at a gas station, got a couple of beers, and then we were at a hotel for the second night. So then just went to work. So like, and then got up, posted the video, ate breakfast, and went to the airport. So like, really just not a lot of time there. I would have loved to stay a little bit longer, although it was still really hot. Chris says, gravel roads are horrible. They were my biggest nemesis on the trail races. Much prefer any other surface, regardless of difficulty. Gravel broke me down fast. I mean, I think it depends. Like some of it's, if it's like slippery, lots of rocks, then I'm not a huge fan. But if it's, as long as there's like an even cover, if there's like a spattering of rocks, then you feel them. But if there's enough rocks to keep it covered, but not so many that you have to like really work to get through them, then I'm a big fan of those dirt roads. But I know what you mean. Like, single track is just a lot softer, a lot more fun. Upper Trent said, did you notice Jim Walmsley was wearing the naked belt? Really want to try one of those. I couldn't see what he was wearing. It didn't have, I thought naked belts always had like the word naked just really big all over the back of it. So I saw that he didn't always have one on, it seemed. But coming out of Michigan Bluff, he had something. He had a bottle in one hand and then a waist pack around him for that section. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. It kind of looked like a spy belt to me because it was really thin in the back. So Ryan Falconer said, did you enjoy a break from swimming? Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I'm eager to keep getting in the pool. I swam this morning. So like I really want to make sure I can, get to the point where I can actually swim this triathlon coming up. I don't have that much time left. So, yeah. So I did, not swim for the last 3 days, but I swam this morning, and I did it with a pull buoy, the foam that you could put in between your legs, because my legs just are always sinking anyway. So I did that. I think it helps. My swimming's still terrible, but I felt better today. I felt, at times I felt just as panicky as always, but today I was like, there's moments where I felt good. All right, CV76 says the WHO recommended fully vaccinated people to still wear masks because of the Delta variant. I haven't seen that, but I'll have to look into that. That's a little bit concerning. All right. Dave says, can you explain a bit of your Hoka funding for the trip? It's great that it means you can make coverage, but I'm curious what input they get out of it. Is it purely advertising? Yeah, the funding is, they booked a flight for me, and then they picked me up at the airport, and I was like with handlers basically at the entire time. And so they paid for meals, lodging, and they got me, well, I still have to apply for media credentials, but when I applied, I was like, I'm coming with Hoka. So like, and that was it. And so like, I didn't pay for like gas or, getting or driving around all that, or getting a rental car or anything. So they were able to do that for me. So it was a little bit different than being there like if I were a freelance photographer where I'd be like figuring all that out myself. So yeah, they were to do that. They didn't pay me to, you know, on top of that. They didn't require, I think I explained this in the description of the video. They didn't require any pre-approval. I don't think we even talked about what I was going to do. I mean, I did talk at some point. They were like, you know, someone was like, hey, what are your plans for tomorrow? And I think they wanted to make sure that they were able to drive me wherever you need to go. Maybe they were trying to get a feel for like, do we have to direct or guide this guy a little bit? But yeah, I kind of like laid out like, well, here's what I'm thinking, you know, we'll get this, we'll get that. And then here's how I'll probably edit it and put it together. But there was no like, you know, submit your proposal. There was no like, can you, you know, show it to someone before, you know, it goes up. So none of that. So yeah. Remy says swimming is difficult. It sure is. It sure is. Oh, and sorry, Remy. And Dave, if you have any other questions, you know, feel free to ask. In terms of, is it purely advertising? Yeah, I mean, they spent a lot of money to be the title sponsor for the event, and so I think they want to make sure they're getting a return on their investment. So that's what it is. But you know, I was with like some Hoka people and some PR people, and I was never really sure, except for like my main contact, who I've known him for a while now. I think a couple of years now. I didn't ever really know who else worked for who. So I wasn't ever sure if I was talking to a PR person or a Hoka person, because everyone was wearing Hoka stuff all weekend, at least of the people that I interacted with. And then there was the other, like there was Jamie, and then two other journalists were a part of the people that they invited. Zoe Ram and Amelia. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on her last name. She's a freelance journalist. She writes for Trail Running, and she's written for Self Magazine and Runner's World, I think. But they were there as well. But yeah, but other than like those, like me, Jamie, Amelia, and Zoe, I didn't really, you know, I had a hard time trying to remember who worked for what, but they were all kind of like people there making sure the weekend went well, I think. All right. Dominic Smirnowski says, hey guys, first vaccination done, enjoying a full recovery day. Awesome. That's a good way to do it. And Aaron's here. He says, part A, cheers, everyone. What's going on, Aaron? Good to see you. You know, I looked for Ryan throughout the course of the day. I don't think I saw him. I don't think I got him on film at all. But it's good to see you, Aaron. And Raymond says, can test the shoes with half S's. Comfort does jump speed. Awesome. Good to see you, Raymond. Kyle Patton wants to know, have I heard of total immersion swimming? I'm not really sure what that means. I can guess, but I'm not sure. I don't think I have. Drew says he thought I said I was swimming with a po' boy sandwich. That's funny. All right. Kiefer says, am I the only person that ordered a Hoka bucket hat after the race? Oh, well, I don't think so. You know, I haven't checked, but I'm assuming that they're sold out on the bucket hats. I mean, at the finish, like, you know, there's hundreds of people there at the finish line. It was insane. So like, we're all kind of waiting, and it's still really hot. So everyone's like clustered around these few areas of shade that we can find. But me, Jamie, and one of the other photographers, Kevin, we wanted to camp out our spot like in lane 4 as Jim came down the track. But we could hear basically everyone that walked by, or all the side conversations. People were talking about, he really ran in that bucket hat all day. I was surprised I could see starting with that hat, but like after a while, I can't imagine running with a bucket hat that long. Like every conversation was like about that. And then it also finished with like, I don't know, but I'm going to buy one now. So I'm assuming that they're all sold out. I haven't actually checked. So yeah, it was a popular topic of discussion for sure. Yeah, Aaron says, after observing states, do you have any desire to race do the race yourself, or any 100 for that matter? Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah. I mean, I think it'd be amazing. I'm thinking, you know, the easier route might be, well, first I think I'd like to do 100K. So like first things first. And so like, as I'm looking at 100Ks to do, I'm also considering whether they're like, would get me, what do they call tickets? So like for a lot of races to like get into Western states, for those of you who don't aren't familiar, you are you don't time qualify necessarily, but there's so many people that want to get in, so they have like a drawing, and there's certain ways to automatically get in, but those are for pros. But for normal people, you have to do drawings to get in, and so you have to run like 100K or a 50-mile or a 100-mile race. And for each of those races, they'll be like, all right, if you can do the 100K in like 16 hours, that will satisfy as a qualifier. And then you get like one ticket to put into the raffle or to the drawing to get into the race. And so like, as I'm looking at 100Ks, I'm like, okay, well, at least then I'll have one. Probably won't get in with just one, but might as well at least have things aligned in that direction. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. And then if it doesn't work out, then, I did notice that there is like a section on the Western States website where you can, it's kind of like a message board or like message board where people can say like, I want to pace. So like, I want to be a pacer, or people that are saying like, I'm coming in by myself. I don't have a team. I need a pacer, and here's the paces I want to run. So I'm like, maybe I can kind of volunteer to be a pacer. So that'd be another way to kind of like see the course. It might be like a nice kind of stepping stone to get to the 100-mile part. Karen says, why is Jamie such a wimp that he can't climb that hill? Here's the thing. I thought he was kidding. I thought it was part of his act, that he was going to say like, man, Kofuzi dragged me up this hill, but after a while he's like, I'm stopping. And I was like, no, you're not. That's funny. He's like, I'm not playing. He's like, I'm not going up anymore. You're lying. It's higher than you say it is. And there is no ski lift at the top. And there wasn't. I know that. That was not true. But yeah, he didn't want to do it. So, I mean, I think, yeah. But I was like, when else are you going to be out here? Let's do this. But he didn't want to go. All right. Paul Kane says, did Hoka give you any cool merch from them yet? Yeah, they gave me like a lot of they did a lot of stuff. Hoka did stuff with Rabbit to make Western States apparel. So they gave me a lot of those items. And then I got like, I think probably my favorite thing that I got, two bags that they gave me. One was a Cotopaxi Hoka Collab bag, and the colors are wild and the design is crazy. And I would never pick it for myself, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, I really like this bag. And then there's another one that's a Western States bag. It's like a cinch drawstring type top bag, but it's a pretty good size. Got a nice amount of pockets, and it has like the Western States logo on it, 2021, and Hoka. So it's like, it looks really great. It looks awesome. So I was pretty excited about those things. But the only thing is, it's like I didn't run the event, I didn't crew anyone, and I didn't pace anyone. So like I've got this great stuff, and I'm like, I don't think I could do a giveaway of it because of the way I got it. And then I'm like, but I can't, like, where am I going to wear this? Along the lakefront? Maybe. But if I wore that to like a race, they'd be like, oh, you were at 2021. I was like, taking video, I think that's it's hard. But, I wanted to make sure that, I think that, again, part of it was they wanted to help like get visibility for some of the merch from this year. And so like I wanted like, I wore it around for the weekend to help them, like for people that are interested in picking up that gear, so yeah, but it looks great and it's super comfortable. I would really enjoy it. All right. Matthew McCarthy says, Kofuzi, been watching you since I started running this year and lost 55 pounds. Whoa, boy. That's great. Let's get a cowbell going for that one. Great job, Matthew. And he says, never ran before and working towards a half marathon before the end of the year. Thanks for the content. Well, that's great. Good luck on your training. It's going to be amazing. Can you imagine, guys, going from the beginning of the year not running to losing 55 pounds, maybe more, and then running a half marathon at the end of the year? That's quite a year. That's amazing. Good job, Matthew. Keep it going. All right. Mark Ingram says, hey, Co, I'm so interested in your swimming endeavors. I find 4 laps of a pool exhausting. Imagine doing 10 to 20 lengths in open water, unfathomable. Good luck and keep up the great work. I find it unfathomable too, but today I did 16 lengths, right? Each time down is a length, right? Uh-oh, losing the camera here. I did 16 lengths, and there we go. And I was tired. I did take breaks. I didn't do it all at once. But it's getting, like slowly, I feel like I'm chipping away at it. And I know like the way to do it is not to just just keep swimming every day. I'm trying to learn and think about how am I improving. I'm not going to be able to brute force my way through it. I need to like figure some things out. So, I'm working on it. Thank you though. Thanks for the support. Dave says, cheers, Co. Really appreciate the openness. I hope it's a great experience and that you get to go back. Yeah, I hope so too. It's kind of like making me think like, and there's something that I'd already been thinking about is like, I really enjoyed before the pandemic, I went to Atlanta to watch the marathon trials, and like, I went on my own dime and I was like, I just want to go watch this thing. Well, of course I'm not competing in it, but I was like, this is an event to spectate. And I made a video about it, and it was kind of like travel vlog slash watching a race together. It's kind of like, the idea behind it. I was like, that's good. And I was like, once there's races again, I should start doing that. And so then this opportunity came up. I'm like, oh, that's the exact kind of thing that I was talking about. Going to a race, not being in it, but trying to capture like the excitement on the ground level. And not from like a reporting sense, but like a in the moment sense, And so I really enjoy that. And I'm like, yeah, what other races can I go to? Jamie's been talking about how he went to all these different races. And I was like, these like track meets. And I'm like, that's cool. What other events can I go to? So I'm thinking like, I don't know. I'm not going to get into New York this year, but maybe this is a year where I go to the New York Marathon and just watch it. I would do Boston, but I don't think I can get from Chicago to Boston in time because I'm still running Chicago this year. So it's like, I think this, and then also it gives me an opportunity to meet people because a lot of people will be traveling to New York, even if they're not necessarily from New York, but they might be going to the New York Marathon, So I feel like that's a good way to meet up with people too. So I think a lot of like good things could happen from it. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully, like, I can make the money part of it work out, and I have to figure out like how we could do that, and that requires like, well, maybe someone can, help me with some of the travel expenses. Cause I don't know that like just the video ad revenue would be enough, but then it's like, well, but it's all part of channel growth, and as the channel is getting bigger, that might make it all worth it. Cause I think like, one way to look at things is like, well, I might make $100 on that video if it does really well. That's not always like the right way to look at things. So it's like, we'll see. So I'm hoping to cover more stuff. But my preference is always to cover an event with a bib on rather than a badge on. So we'll see. Kyle says that Atlanta Peachtree 2022. I mean, I think that could be it. I mean, I like the idea of going to like these bigger events that are historic as well, that have some legacy, and Peachtree certainly does. I wanted to go this year, but and I wanted to do it with a bib on and try to get a spot, but like it was like split over 2 days still, and so that kind of like makes it harder to like create a story from it. And I was like, I'm not sure. And then, but next year I think they're gonna have a regular race, so it's like, yeah, I think I'll try to run that one. And then Boulder is another one. This year they had it, but it was like in like 3 different locations to keep people spread apart. And I was like, no, that's not it. That's not the way to do it. So, yeah. Martha says, so bummed you can't film Boston and have a post-race meetup. I know. Who was I telling about it? I forget who I was telling about it. I was like, yeah, Boston and Chicago are the same weekend, like 1 day apart. And they were like, wait, they didn't like run it by each other. Like there's only 6 of them. They didn't like do like a quick, like, hey, when are you guys going this year? Cause everything's changed and moved, And I was like, I guess not. I mean, there's only so many weekends. And he's like, really? What's the weekend before? I'm like, I don't think there's a big marathon the weekend before. And he's like, then they could have done it the weekend before. And I'm like, you're right. So, yeah. So I'm bummed that they're the same weekend. Pete G says, hi, Kofuzi, how's it going? Not been here for a while, but happy watching. Good to see you again, Pete. Glad you're back. Hugo says, I'm in a spot where I think I would appreciate a recovery shoe, but I already spent $250 in shoes this year. I'm a little sad about hearing how great the More 3 is. Sorry, I wish I could have got to it sooner. But yeah, it's really nice. I almost ran him today. I was thinking about running him today. I went with the Nova Blast 2 for a day. So those are kind of like my two favorite recovery shoes. The Nova Blast 2 is a little bit more versatile, but I do like both of them for recovery. Chris Larson said, what's your expected goal time for Chicago? Sorry if you already said. No, I haven't talked about it yet. I'm pacing my running buddy. And last year he ran at 3:26. And I don't think he has a specific time that he wants to improve, but he wants to improve on that. I think he's still not 40 years old yet. So I'm not sure what that BQ time would be. But I don't like the 40-year-old age group BQ time is 3:10. And I mentioned that to him and he's like, I don't know about 3:10. But like, so I don't know, maybe like a 3:15 is what we'll shoot for. 3:20 to 3:15, I think, is probably a good conservative place to be. And then, kind of see on the day how we're feeling. Stamp Steven says, are the ZoomX Invincibles worth getting over the Peg 38s? Thank you. And I'm not sure. That Peg, I ordered a second pair of Peg 38s like a month ago. It keeps getting pushed back in terms of when it's get delivered because I ordered a very specific color. And for whatever reason, like the delivery date keeps slipping on that. So I'm inconclusive in terms of my thoughts on the Peg 38. But the ZoomX, I do like the ZoomX Invincible, but they're a little bit quirky. And it seems like they're not that popular this year. From what I've been seeing out on the lakefront path, I don't know. They might end up being I like them, but they might end up being a commercial dud. I don't know if we'll see a version 2. But, I think all that stuff's already decided by now, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with it. Right now, I don't know. I can't answer that question yet. I think that's where I have to leave it. All right. Sam Stevens says, well, considering the Peg 37s are very similar to 38s, would you get the Invincibles or 37s, for example? If it comes down to the 37 or the Invincible, I think it would then depend on what do you really want it for. If you need a little bit of do everything, then I would get the Pegasus. But if you're looking for something that's more like, if you're not looking for a shoe to do speed work in, if you're just going to do easy miles and long runs in it, then I would get the Invincibles. That's kind of how I would decide. So like if your typical workout is like, I might do some hill sprints, I might even do some track work in it, or maybe I'll do some things that are threshold pace or harder, then I wouldn't want to be in the Invincibles for that. Paul Kane says, maybe it's a good way to expand the channel and perhaps some of the brands you work with may help subsidize the cost. I think you can still be independent but loosely connected. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. I try not to reach out to brands on purpose because I like to have a little bit of distance, so maybe it's time to be like, find a way to at least subsidize the travel a little bit. But once you start doing that, then there's expectations in terms of like, well, here's some things that we think are really important. Well, you can do what you want. You know what I mean? Then once you start having conversations like that, then it gets a little bit tricky. And so, it gets, well, I think overall, I think it just gets tricky. It has to be navigated very carefully. And so it requires kind of like the right partner that trusts you, and is willing to like fund it. What I kind of would love, I think the person who had the best job was I'm drawing a blank on his name, the Gonzo reporter, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, when he worked for Sports Illustrated, and then he was a writer for ESPN, where he went and covered like the Dakar race, or like would just go to whatever sporting events he wanted to and just covered it however he wanted to, and they were just like, go do your thing. And I feel like I need like a long leash like that, not because I want to do something crazy, but just because like I just don't think I work very well. Yeah, Hunter S. Thompson. How did I draw a blank on the name? You guys do it. Yeah, I love his work, And the fact that like he was a sports reporter or like a sports writer is like, I mean, there are many bizarre things about his story, but like I think it's just such a weird thing is that like that's kind of like how he funded a lot of his adventures. And so yeah, so like I'd love to be able to kind of work, like I want to be like, how did he work out those relationships? You know what I mean? Like that's so strange, but like that's the kind of thing that I want to do, and just let the curiosity take me to places, you know. And then when it's like, oh, you know, this would line up really well with someone else's interests, you know, make it win-win, you know. So like, yeah. Frank says you don't do enough drugs to be Hunter S. Thompson. I know. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that's the problem, but that would be a very big difference. But you know, his style is yeah, it just made it so compelling. Michael Ambrose says he also ran for the mayor of Aspen. Is that right? Yeah. And Adrian Blansky said you'd have to be blitzed all the time. Yeah, maybe. Is that, I mean, I suppose that is what drove him quite a bit. So Kurt Owen says, I was sad to see that the Chicago Rock and Roll Marathon has ceased to exist. Oh, was it a casualty? The half marathon's still going, right? That one's usually like coming up soon, like in a month, I think. Oh, Kurt says the half. Oh, it is gone. Oh, that was a good race. It was always so hot though. Do you need to figure out a different time? Maybe it'll come back at a different time of year. July is a hard time. Yeah, New Venture says, what if you got sponsorships from camera or selfie stick companies? No bias on the shoe reviews. I mean, that'll be one thing, but I still review the cameras too, although I've kind of narrowed it down to the 2 cameras that I really like. And I don't see anyone else really taking those crowns soon. So I don't think I'd have a problem with that. I think it would be really funny to have like a Kofuzi branded selfie stick, but like the way I would brand it, I would want like, all right, you can write Kofuzi on the side, but write it in matte black, you know, so like, you know, you can't see it. So that would be kind of weird, but it would remind me of like, do you remember, I don't know if he still makes videos, right? Devin Supertramp. He had, what were those gimbals? The non-motorized gimbals. He had like a Devin Supertramp, like branded one that he used with his cameras. That was like a pretty big deal. You know, I was like, that'd be interesting. Selfie sticks are like a fraction of the cost of those big weighted gimbals. But I think that the ideal sponsorship would be like, I really want, maybe I should reach out to, I don't think Teltronics would ever sponsor me, but like to have like the air fryer sponsor. Like if I had more adventures, I would just bring like a camper and I'm bringing my Teltronics air fryer camping, and we're having delicious tacos on the side of this race, like waiting for Camille Herron to come in. We're gonna get her some tacos. You know, I think that would be like amazing. Or like, you know, if KPMG ever wants to start sponsoring or getting invested in the runner space, like that KPMG as a sponsor, that'd be kind of like just something completely unrelated to running. I think my favorite example is always Rocket Mortgage. I don't have any experience with Rocket Mortgage, but I just think that that'd be something that Rocket Mortgage would do. And Ignacio come in with the super chat. Thank you so much, Ignacio. Ignacio Saldana Jr. with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Says, thanks for all you do. Hope to run alongside you one day. I hope so too. Ignacio. So I'll always try to make it clear whenever I'm traveling. I know I didn't tell you guys this time, but I knew I wouldn't have time for like a meetup necessarily. So anytime I'm traveling, I'm going to try to make that really clear to people far out ahead of time. So if you're kind of in the area, maybe we can make it work, kind of thing. So yeah. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. Thank you. Kyle Patton says, wait, the Chicago half marathon's hot and you want to run Peachtree? Yeah, I know Peachtree is going to be hot too, but it's a 10K versus a half marathon. Does that make more sense? Maybe, but like, I mean, I also think that like, you know, that course, it's historic. The Chicago Rock and Roll half marathon course doesn't have kind of like the prestige, I think. So I think that makes it a little bit different. All right. Ray Suarez says, what happened to Hayden Hawks at Western States? I missed his finish. You know what? Here's the thing. I haven't read any of the follow-ups, but here's like the information that I heard at the time. And maybe, you know, is Aaron still here? Maybe Aaron knows because Hayden is Aaron's coach. But like, I understood that the Hoka people were talking about it, or the PR people. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know, we were talking at breakfast. That's why there's no footage of us eating, is because we were with the PR people, and the PR people don't want to be in the videos, or the Hoka people. But like, and normally, like if it was Jamie and me eating, there'd probably be a time lapse, a breakfast time lapse. But that's why there's no like footage of us eating. But we were talking at breakfast, and they were saying like, "Oh my goodness, did you hear about Hayden?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't hear about it at all. I got back to the hotel room, drank 2 beers while I was editing videos, and then fell asleep on with my computer in my lap." And they were like, "Well, at like mile 90 something, he was having like heart palpitations, and so like he stopped at one point, and they stopped long enough that they were trying to get cell service to get a medical person to come and help. And then some of the crew came out to go get him past the aid station. So you're not allowed to give any crew assistance once there's like a very clear demarcation mark that's like, this is the end of the aid station. So like you can't like give them anything, render any sort of assistance at all, or you'd be disqualified. My understanding was that like they were saying that like they don't know if like the medical person got there first, you know, because if it's like a medical situation, you know, you're like, oh, it's a medical situation. We're not worried about getting DQ'd or not. So I think someone said that he got help, and that resulted in a DQ, but he was going to finish the race anyway. And then they weren't sure about like some people on his team knew about it, and some people, and it was unclear as to whether he knew that he was DQ'd when he crossed the finish line. But then, you know, I haven't seen anything about it. And then he posted on Instagram about it too. So I don't know if I've confused it with someone else, or I don't know what's going on. So I haven't heard anything about that. So, I'm not sure. Maybe you guys know. I feel like you guys probably know more about the race than I do, because like, you know, I was in a hole, not literally, but like I had no cell reception. I was just like waiting for runners to come. I'd maybe hear things like secondhand of what came over the radios, and that was it, you know. So you guys have probably read and heard a lot more than I have. Piet Johnson says about, but yeah, I don't know if that's for sure or not, because no one else has mentioned that. I haven't seen anything about it. Piet Johnson says about trying to do some of these trips, fund it with a Patreon. That's an interesting idea. I kind of like that idea. Huh. That actually makes sense. Like that's like a Patreon that I would like to see. Like if someone else did it, you know. Interesting. I'll think about that. And Matt McAdam says, just watch your video from Western States. What was it like running with Walmsley? One, I was worried that like he was going to get mad at me, you know, because I was making a lot of noise. I had my camera, like my big camera, and it was like I had a strap, and it was like rattling. And then I think I had put the lens cap in a pocket next to my phone, and so it was like hitting. So here's the lens cap, and it was like in two pockets that were on top of each other, but it was like clicking like this too. And then I was huffing and puffing to keep up with him, and my steps are a lot faster than his because he's like a gazelle. And so I'm trying to chase him, and I'm outside of the aid station, but like I'm media. I'm not a crew member, but like is someone gonna think that he's getting pacing assistance from me or something? So I was worried about that in the back of my mind. So I always kept my distance, and I didn't say anything. And I was just running after this guy in the woods, you know. So that was out on my side. For him, it's just like, another one of these dudes with a GoPro. I was running, and I was like, I've seen Jamil Curry run after Walmsley before on a downhill at this race, and Jamil had a hard time keeping up with him. So I was thinking I'm going to have to sprint, and I wasn't sprinting, but I was like, also, he just came out of an aid station, so he probably just ate a whole bunch of food. And he's got a 15-minute lead on the person behind him. He's not trying to make a record attempt today. But I was like, by the end of the time, I ran with him for like 45 seconds, maybe a minute. And I was like, oh, he's going fast. I'm very happy to let him go right now. So it was kind of like, it was exhilarating, but also terrifying, because I was like, I just don't want to screw things up. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is fast. I was like, not as fast as I was expecting. Because when he outran Jamil, he was doing like under 6-minute miles running downhill at Western States. but he wasn't running that fast. But I was like, but he's 55 miles into a run on a ridiculously hot day. I'm like, this is insanity. How is he doing this? And like for the rest of the day, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make physiological sense. Like how can he do this? So that's what it was like running with him. Like it's just a mystery. I don't understand how he's doing that. And it looked like he was jogging. You know, it was just like he's just bounding along. Because I've seen him running at the X2. I didn't see him, but I watched the Carbon X2 event. I watched the Carbon X1 event. I saw him run live at the Atlanta US Marathon Trials. And, you know, he can run so fast. And here he was a lot slower than those other, at least at the marathon trials. But he was just like effortless. So it's a mystery. Scott says, hey, how come we're not eating? Thanks to you, I had a duck donut yesterday. I don't know what a duck donut is, but I'm intrigued. We're not eating today because I thought, you know, it might be a little bit distracting. I figured you guys would have a lot of maybe some. I had a lot to talk about Western states, and I thought you guys might have a lot to talk about too. Yeah, Kurt Owen says the ideal sponsorship is from a retailer that carries the products. Yeah, I thought about that too, like to be sponsored like by a running store, but like I think that might be a little bit limiting. Yeah, not that I need it to be limiting. It's like it would help, but you know, it's not currently how I shop either. You know, I get stuff from kind of like all over the place. So like there's nowhere like, well, I'm already buying all my stuff from there anyway. Might as well like team up with them. So maybe it wouldn't be ideal, but I could make that work, I think. I don't know. I think me getting like sponsored would be really weird, and it would make people really mad in the running world. That's just my thought on it. People, you guys are talking about how Tatronics makes everything, and I totally agree with you. Jeff says the waist belt leash for my dog is made by Tatronics. Really? So when you take a dog for like a run, it's like you got to put on the Tatronics running dog belt. That's amazing. Oh, Nathan Johnson's got some more information. It says Hayden laid down on the side of the trail having vertigo at mile 92, and had an hour-long pity party, his words, at the aid station. Yeah, see? So I'm glad that I didn't like get the name wrong on that. But my understanding, it was like they were talking to me about like it was a heart thing. Well, they weren't talking to me. They were all like, I think they were all getting texts about it at the same time. That it was like they were concerned because he was like, my heart, something's going on with my heart. And so, yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. So I don't know what the ultimate result of that was, because my understanding leaving breakfast was that he was DQ'd. But again, no one else said anything about it. So I was like, maybe I got that fact wrong somehow. T. Davis says, yo, Kofuzi, what's going on? Are you coming to Baltimore for the opening of the Believe in the Run new headquarters? I am. Also, I will be there. I still have to book tickets, but and get lodging, but I'll figure that out. I got to do that soon. But I told Thomas that, you know, he called me out on the podcast the other day, and I was like, I already told you I'm coming, dude. And I mentioned it in the race video, I think, that I made a couple of weeks ago, that like in July is busy. I'll have like a weekend in Baltimore and then a weekend in Wisconsin at my his parents' lake house. And then the week after that is Ames, Iowa for the USATF Steeple Masters Championship. I might have more news on that, some more fun news, but I will be in Ames. All right. Cabinet says, we would love to sponsor you, Kofuzi, but does anyone stop the sponsor part of videos? That's the issue for brands like ours. You know, I think that like the way see, for me to be sponsored would be weird because I'm not going to ever win a race. So that's one thing. And so it'd be weird to sponsor someone who's not a pro caliber athlete. But the other thing would be that, like, ad reads and stuff like that are okay, but I fast forward through people's ad reads, whether it's on podcasts or on YouTube. So I'm not a huge fan of that. If I were to do like product sponsorship, I would do something like that where it was like disclosed, or it would be listed like in the about section of a YouTube or in the about of like Instagram and Twitter. But instead it's just like, you're using the product, so more of like a product placement than like today I want to tell you all about this new iron that I have, link in description. With the irons out because the kids are doing crafts, the ones that you iron, those wax beads things. But like I wouldn't do it that way. Instead, I'd probably make videos about us using the iron to make those crafts. So that's how I would want to do a sponsorship. I don't know how I would do that if KPMG or Rocket Mortgage came calling. I'd have to figure that out a little bit. But yeah, so I mean, it would have to be the right partner that's willing to, like, again, not give me a long leash, but be patient in the fact that I'm not going to operate like a regular person that they've interacted with before. So, yeah. Frank says, basically, you never follow Jim. Just let him go. And Joshua Beal says, Jim's a madman. Yeah, I forget who I was I was watching today on Twitter. Someone was like, the elite field, definitely, like everyone struggled today, and especially the elite field. And I blame Jim Walmsley for it, because it wasn't someone who ran, but it was someone. Oh, I think it was Gary Robbins, who was like, Jim Walmsley blew up the men's elite field because he went out hard and everyone tried to follow him. But yeah, I think so. Arlene says, at least Hayden Hawks finished, unlike some other athletes. What happened to them? I think it's, I mean, I'm not sure which elites didn't finish. I was surprised to hear that Eric Sensman, he finished, right? Yeah. I was surprised to hear about that, because I heard that he sat at like somewhere around the 100K mark for a while, and his foot was just disgusting. It was all messed up. And I think it's with how hot it was, it really just like destroyed people. There's this incredible heat. And then everyone's getting wet as much as they can. So a lot of people were running in wet shoes for a long time. Can't imagine that the shoes stayed wet for very long, but you're constantly getting wet throughout this race. So over the course of 100 miles, I think that can cause problems. So I think the weather just like destroyed everyone today. The number I remember is that it was a 66% completion, the lowest completion, I think, percentage. All right, Martha's got some information on the new vaccine. There's a new vaccine out called Novavax. It's a traditional vaccine, but even slightly more effective than the mRNA ones. And no more excuses for the doubters. And it's a big article in the Atlantic. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, all sorts of other news happened when I was in California. I'll have to check it out. Thank you, Martha. All right. Let's see. Let's do a couple more, and then I know I kept you guys all along, but I didn't want to cut anyone's questions off. Yeah, Jeff Light says, some of the Pikes Peak footage on single track looked like it might have been annoying for runners because the camera people were very close to the runners. Yeah, the thing is, I think it's context dependent too, because like if you watch like the trail races in Europe, it's kind of like when you watch rally car races where you're like, these cars are coming through at like 90 miles an hour on a dirt road, right? Like maybe you want to give them a little bit more space. But people get right up into it, especially the photographers. They'll like shoot the shot and then have to literally sprint out of the way because the car's coming. But I feel like that mentality exists, but also like there was like huge, crazy, rabid fans out in Europe for mountain trail running. So like, I think that it's a little bit different there. And I'm guessing the athletes are a little bit more like used to it and expect it there. Like I was watching the Zenal, like the Sierra Zenal race on YouTube. I think it's a Golden Trail Series race, isn't it? I don't know. But the guy that was following Kilian Jornet was like right behind him, like the entire time. And I get it. He's like, he's the camera guy for the race, but like, so it's a little bit different than any other camera people, but like he had, shoulder width apart, even on areas where he could have run a little bit wider, just because fans and photographers and everyone there. So like, I don't think at no point did Western States feel like that to me, except for the finish when Jim finished. Here's what happened at the finish, and I'll end with this one for today. We can talk about it more tomorrow, but I'll end with this today because it's already 2:10. So he's coming down the track. And you come off the street and down the track, and then you have to do like basically run like 300 meters, and then you finish. So what everyone wants to do is everyone wants to greet him when he gets to the track. And then he's got to run 300 meters. Everyone, including like me, Jamie, and Kevin, we're kind of right when he entered because we wanted the shot of him coming down with all the people there. And then as soon as he passed us, like 100 people sprinted across the field so that they could catch Jim before he came back around. And so all of a sudden I'm going click, 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 click. And I've got the GoPro in one hand and it's kind of, I got a pinky out to hold up like the lens because it's a long lens. So I'm like holding it like this, click, 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 click. And then like the GoPro is also tracking as well. And then as soon as I do that, I stand up and I start running over and I'm looking and like a crowd, like a stampede of people are, because they've already started running. I was crouched down and then they already started running. So I'm running with like 100 other people across the infield of this track. And then we're all racing to the finish line. And so everyone's trying to get behind the finish line so they could see him coming. But that's a media only area. So I'm running and I'm like holding up my badge. Like, it's like Dumb and Dumber. It's okay. I'm a limo driver. I'm like going through like that. And the two women that are there, like trying to stop this like this wave of humanity coming at them. They're like, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. And they're like, he's got a badge. You're okay, but no more media because it's just getting too full. And so I was like the last person to get in, even for people that had media badges. So I was like, this is crazy. Had I known this was going to happen, I would have left my GoPro over there so I could capture, the insanity of what's going on. I don't know if there's a drone up in the air. I don't know if the drone got it. I don't know whose drone it was. I don't know if it was Billy Yang's drone or what, but yeah, that was absolutely insane. And then, so everyone's there at the finish, not everyone, because there's some people lining up at the top. They want to give him high fives as he comes in, like at the top of the home stretch. So of the like 100 or so people that ran over, we're all out of breath. And we're like, did we get it? Did we get it? And Jim's like walking, giving high fives to everybody as he goes by. So they're like, oh, we had more time. So it was really funny. It was really funny. But like, it was an amazing wave to ride in. I sprinted hard and I didn't feel a second of it just because it was just like such a weird rush to be part of that. So I would say to everybody, if you can see it, go experience that. It was amazing. It was amazing. All right. I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. Tomorrow's video is going to be me getting back to my regular routine. We're going to talk about, it's going to be about running and swimming and just kind of getting back to normal. Talking about what's next. We're going to be heading out to Iowa soon for a couple of weeks too. So like, I don't know if we'll have our plans solidified yet for me to talk about it in tomorrow's video, but get back to our regularly scheduled me struggling with swimming content. So we'll be doing that. And then we'll do another live stream tomorrow. I don't know if maybe we'll do trivia. Maybe we'll do the mukbang on Tuesday. I'm not sure, but we'll have another live stream tomorrow. Same time as today, 1 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully I'll see you then. In the meantime, be safe out there, everybody. Thanks.